continue after the break. We'll continue with our second invited speaker, Frode Hegland, who will be discussing some technologies with rapidly growing markets and applications. In particular, he will talk about what VR means for hypertext and its use, asking the question, where are we with this? Frode has been organizing the Future of Text Symposium for over a decade and has published a series of books based on the symposium. He is also the director of the augmented text company, developers of the author word processor and reader PDF viewer, both on macOS available. I'm very much looking forward to this presentation and the discussion that will follow. So please go ahead.
Thank you. So nice. So nice to finally be here with all of you. Absolutely wonderful. So we are in Rome. We spent a few days here, the family, before today, and we wandered into the Pantheon, which is beautiful. If you haven't been there, of course you should go. And the beautiful big hole in the ceiling is actually called an oculus, which I thought was quite poetic. Obviously, for those of you who don't know, Oculus is one of the headset brands. No, that's what it is. So to take the joke a little bit further, the light that comes through the Oculus onto the wall is kind of the key of what I want to talk about. I want to highlight a little bit of the importance of the past and of the future. All these beautiful buildings, and now we have responsibility for the future. It's easier to make something than change something. Attributed to my hero, Alexander Hamilton. Mostly the musical hero, not so much the reality of the man. But that is really key to put in the back of your mind. So with VR, I'm talking about knowledge in virtual reality. By knowledge, by virtual reality, I mean all of those things. Goes by many names. I don't care. AR, VR to me is a toggle, not two different systems. I'm not saying that we're all going to be working VR every day soon, but I am saying that we are soon going to be spending at least part of our day in VR, and I think of them as kind of thinking caps, if we're careful with what we build in terms of tools, infrastructures, and most importantly, people's expectations. So hypertext in VR, well, yes. So this is real. As part of the Future Text Lab, we host meetings 2 hours every Monday, and we have a journal in addition to the books. And this is soft space. This is VR. It's real. It's amazing. It is now. So will VR constrain us or free us? I don't know. And I really don't care. I'm not here for answers. I'm here for questions. Hopefully we can generate better questions together. Because this is a call to arms to think about thought in multiple dimensions of freedom. So what happens when we no longer need a substrate, a medium for interaction? I mean, that's the end goal of HCI, right? The invisible interface. I heard that a lot in the 90s. Let's get right at the interface. Impossible? Yes, of course it is impossible. But what happens when the substrate almost disappears? Do interactions get easier? No, not necessarily. Think of dancing, sports, and those kinds of activities. They are all activities you need training to do. Just the fact that you don't have to learn a tool doesn't make it easier necessarily. And with VR, this is where we're going. Potential. The question is, when we can reinvent tools in this entirely new environment, which tools will be useful and how will we define tool? By the way, at the last slide, there's a list of these questions. You don't need to remember them. They're a bit of a prompts for thinking. We need to ask these questions in conjunction with the environment because it's all synthetic. When you're in a VR, AR environment, every single dot you see has to be made by someone. Nothing happens automatically. So what environment will we be working in? Early VR was fully immersive. You put on a thing, and it's there. And then Apple comes along with what I think will be an historical device, more important than the iPhone. But they are giving us volumes, windows, and spaces. is this really how we want to work? Maybe it is, but if we don't have an opinion on this as a community, we can't complain, can we? Now, it could be said that this is a necessary training wheel for full VR. Or is it a retarding step, dreaming deeper? Did you see what happened to the woman? From line drawing to this? Yeah, so cool, right? So I hold that human imagination is one of the most powerful faculties we possess, something to be cherished and nurtured, not to be put into boxes. Otherwise, how can we navigate to a better future if we have no idea what it is? If we can't dream it, we can't get there. The opportunities today are wide open. Let's not prematurely constrain them based on our prejudices. Let us proactively dream of powerfully interactive knowledge worlds. So these were all generative AI images, in case you hadn't guessed, based on that Apple Vision person. I prefer dragons to boxes. But will AR multiplied by VR be more powerful than imagination? We need to power up our imagination. Our brains will need better training sets than the LLMs are getting, and richer interaction. So what is it we see in VR? We cannot easily separate environment from tool anymore, information from tool anymore, or information from interaction anymore. What are the actual and expected affordances that this is for you, Professor Language? And more importantly, what do we want them to be? Text in VR, absolutely. Symbol manipulation is what Doug Engelbart called interactive text. Symbol manipulation at scale, that's what we get in VR. So we started with Dungeons and Dragons, and then my friend made me say Documents and Dragons, and actually Documents and Knowledge Interaction. I had to acknowledge we're going from a bit of fantasy to something else. Thank you, Fabienne, if you watch this in the future. So a document in VR, I open it, it appears in front of me. It's at a nice reading angle, it's simple, looks like a normal document. And then I do this, and all the pictures go on that wall, and I do this, and all the graphs go on this wall. These images, by the way, are VR environments that we have been testing. So here's the question of location. Is it geometric or semantic? Meaning, when I do that onto that wall, is it a plane or is it known to the system? And that's my picture wall, that's my graphs wall. Because if it knows the names, the meaning of the walls, if I change from this space to an office or a cafe or home, when I open the document, I don't have to tell it where to put stuff again. It knows where things should go. Addressability will be a huge recurring theme and question. And then walking home from a wonderful dinner with some crazy people last night, Mark asked the question a few times, what will work be in this environment? Sometimes it will be very similar to what we do today, other times it will be an entirely different thing. So we have to decide, is it the process, is it the product, is it the communication, what is this thing? Right now, we are wholly ignorant. I think the Oculus and everything that exists now is important to experiment, but they're so rudimentary. And then the other question is, what will our bodies be in this environment? You know, there's a great shooter game in VR where your radio is here. You have to touch the radio to use it. You have the ammunition, you have your map, all these things. And in some VR environments already, you can have your clipboard on your wrists. Instead of a watch, you have everything there. That's amazing. You know, we're not going to be disembodied. We will be extra-embodied. Well, that's a new phrase. You should use that. So then the question of tools, two questions. One is portability. On the Macintosh, I have a tool called Liquid, which allows you to select text and do things in almost any app. Cool, because of the services system on the Mac. What about these spaces? If we get to know a tool in one environment, then we go to another tool created by another software developer. Will the tools be completely different, or can we take them with us? And then, what about physical tools, like this nice pencil that we got for the conference, or a digital pen? The system should know the orientation. I mean, right now, Apple wants us to sit and move fingers in our lap, which is great for some work, but come on, not for everything. And then we were in Sicily before we came here. I bought this piece of obsidian, not the software, the actual thing. Actually, please hold it and fondle it, and please send it around. Why not take a physical thing like this, have it instantly scanned and have that as a tool for certain work in your environment? Right? That's the first half of that. The second half that I'm so excited by the obsidian, it feels amazing in the hand. But that tool, obsidian, cut crudely for humans, has been used for much, much longer than humans have been humans. Our hands have actually been developed to shape, to fit that stone. Right? That's incredible. The tactile nature of that, how we can use it. We didn't fashion it to fit this, it's the other way around. That's a bit of a boom. And when I'm talking about VR, I'm talking about the same thing. We need to keep that in mind. A few more quick questions. One is transfer and access and shared spaces. Let's say we're in a VR room right now. What are you seeing? What is this? The thing that you're passing around, what is that? If I give someone a document, am I giving you basically a JPEG of it? Am I giving you the whole thing? Is it a copy? Is it a transfer? Maybe some people haven't paid enough, along the back. Let's pretend when the document reaches you, you only get a cut-down version of it. Let's say someone comes in the door, I haven't given them privileges, they see a blurred out, pixelated version of it. These are things that we also have to decide. How do we want our knowledge to move like that? And also, my PhD thesis is all about PDFs with an appendix saying what the PDF is. Extreme boring other side of this, but the point is portability. Take it into VR, take it out, and it's completely open. There are many ways we need to, as a community, look at how we want our information to go, and that goes to this, ownership. All of this will be owned, all of it. The tools, the procedures, all of it. Some of it IP, some of it just in procedures. We need to discuss this. So graphs. Graphs without text are not all that useful. Mark disagreed with me. At a certain scale, blobs are fine. Of course they are. But graphs make text much more useful. So you could say, spatial hypertext in VR, right? Maybe it'll be that, maybe it'll be something else. Let's find out. So just thinking about a knowledge graph in VR, it's amazing. Thinking at room scale, imagine this whole thing here being the knowledge graph of what we're working on now, including depth. And I don't even know what depth is going to be useful for. We need to find out. How messy can that be? Even on a normal size display today, it can get messy real fast. So we need to give the user the right level of control to deal with this. I'm going to show you a little bit of the map view in Author, which will also be part of the demo tomorrow. So I select text, I choose define concept or command D, write what I think this thing is. I set a tag for it, you don't really have to, it's up to you. Go into the map view, and here I can move it anywhere I want. It's a completely free form from Mark Anderson and Dave Miller's paper. This is, hypertext is a tool for thought, not a tool for presentation, right? So this is your own mess. So moving things around, but the new thing we just added is what you can't see, why, but a little bit of keyboard shortcuts, and you can select by category. So now I'm selecting by people, because it could be all over the place. And then I do keyboard shortcut to align them. I happen to go down it off the screen, move it across, put them here, but I can still move things any way I want. In this view, it doesn't show all these lines. That makes it a complete mess, which is kind of the standard. It only shows the nodes that are selected. You can do many, like care, you do none, you can do one, so you have a different level of control. This is getting very, very good user feedback, but it doesn't have any spatial hypertext characteristics at all. It's completely plain, and it doesn't have any three-dimensionality, so hopefully this is working on the future. So the point is that direct interaction is great, but we also need more powerful ways to select and organize once we get bigger knowledge sets to work with. And this is just so cool. The one on the right there is Fabian, who's in our community. You move your finger in a specific way and you get all these cards of information. You can put things onto your body like we talked a little bit about earlier. The one on the left is actually a way to write by pulling each finger like a joke to a letter, and you write something that way. Will they remain wild for long? I mean, the 60s and 70s saw hypertext go mad, and it became standardized. Right? These are important things for us to have a Cambrian explosion now. So when it does get crystallized, at least it will be the good stuff. So in closing, before we discuss a goal for VR, actually a goal for me for VR, this community, which we're all very, very welcome to join. We meet for 2 hours every Monday morning, been doing it for years, to talk about this stuff. And sometimes it's very frustrating. You know, no one understands what I'm saying. It's horrible. And then I realize why, and it's wonderful. Sometimes people really understand me, and it's incredible. What it does is it makes my skull bigger. It doesn't make me smarter, but I can breathe. It's amazing to be with people in a safe space where there is dialogue to go in lots of directions, and they're not trying to talk about something completely random until they are, and then you find out why. I think the goal for our systems and tools should be the same, to give your brain space to breathe. So VR extends our potential. How we choose to extend ourselves defines who we are. This is my son a few years ago. He's only been in VR twice. That's the first time. He is the reason I'm doing this, obviously. I don't want his intellectual future to be as constrained as Microsoft Office. So here's the thing. How we choose to extend ourselves defines who we are and who we want to be. How we define interactions in VR now will determine interactions for generations to come. Just like PC interactions became standardized, clicking on keyboard, mouse, icons, all of that stuff. Compartmentalized in word processing, email, web, spreadsheet, and that's about it. Right? Let us not think that people in the next generations will be smarter than us. They will not. And also, what we define now will be the truth. You know, most people haven't heard about hypertext, but you know, they know what the web is. So it is a truth. Truth kills creativity. The professor told me at Syracuse University, I'll not say how many decades ago. I haven't been able to track down who he was. It's such a profoundly important thing. Truth kills creativity. So, Trajan's poem, if you haven't seen it, I'm sure you will. 2,000 years old. And what have we got? That's the Trajan typeface. Not just the Trajan typeface, it is of course the early roots of the typeface we use every day. Roman square capitals. Goes back to the very beginning. Right? It's easier to make something than to change something. So, as I said, this has been a call to arms to think about thought in multiple dimensions of freedom. So where are we with this, which is the titular title? We are where we choose to focus on being. It's that simple. And then, of course, the Roman Empire, the good one. Our life is what our thoughts make it. Updated to French guy. The world of reality has its limits. The world of imagination is boundless. Doug Engelbart, who was my mentor, who I miss tremendously, he kept telling the story of someone saying, but Doug, you're just a dreamer. And he got really angry at times that dreaming is hard work. And for the last 2 years, when we've been dreaming together about the future of VR and AI, we have learned truly what it means. Developing another feature, fine. Another little thing, fine. But to truly dream, not just fantasize, but dream based on something that can happen, very, very hard. The only way to do it is to have people who disagree and look at it from a different way. So whoever would like to join our community, please do. You don't have to show up every time. Any random Monday, be there and disagree with us. So where are we with this? You tell me. Specifically, I'm just going to quickly read these questions, see how much time we have. Not necessarily addressing any, but how do we define tools? What are the equivalent of context menus in VR? What will tools work and where? What about physical tools? What will symbol manipulation be? And then what will work be, or audience be? What are links and connections in this environment? I didn't even talk about that. What is a space? How do we move between them? This slide is going really funny. And how do we move information and ourselves? Just one tiny little additional thing that we've learned. One person in our group, Bob Horn, he's very famous for doing massive murals. And when we put one of his mural in a neutral VR space and we used the controllers to walk to it, we all got queasy, motion sickness, right? But then we changed interaction. So you pinch, it can be far away, but you pinch and you move it and it follows you. It completely removed motion sickness. Even though the eye got exactly the same input, the fact that you controlled it with this rather than pretending your feet changed it completely. So that's why we experiment, so we can experience. That's the whole point. And I will leave it on this question. Thank you very much.